Ladies and gentlemen, the meeting's finished. I'm very pleased to present the High Representative, who's going to say a few words, and then we'll have time for 3 questions afterwards.
Thanks, everyone. This has been a meeting to which I was pleased to invite Minister Zarif, a meeting of the E3+3 at ministerial level with political directors, convened and chaired by myself. It was a substantial meeting, good atmosphere, energetic. We had a discussion about how we would go forward with an ambitious time frame to see whether we can make progress quickly. I'm pleased that we have agreed to meet in Geneva on the 15th and 16th of October to pursue the agenda to carry on from today's meeting and to hopefully move this process forward. I want to thank Minister Zarif for coming to the meeting and for talking openly, and very much look forward to pursuing this in Geneva shortly.
Washington Post is first. Wait for the microphone, thanks.
Yeah. Hi, thank you. Can you tell us whether there was any substantive discussions, any talk about any suggestions that Iran would be willing to suspend enrichment, to move any of the 20% grade uranium out of the country, and any reflection on whether Kerry and Zarif shook hands, talked, met?
Well, I'm sure Secretary Kerry, who was, as you know from, I'm sure the images you've seen, seated nearby, is a man of great politeness, so it would be surprising if they didn't do that. But I'm sure he will brief later on his conversation. The substantial part of the discussion was to have an opportunity to hear from the Foreign Minister of Iran his thinking about how to move forward. And within that, to look at what kind of timetable, and if you like, to begin the conversation about where this will all end up. And as you will appreciate, we want to spend our time in Geneva now translating that, in a sense, into the practical details. Like the Minister, I am very ambitious for what we can do, but we all know that we have to be very practical in translating political ambition into what does that mean for the effective work that we do on the ground. And that's what we really need to focus on now.
Baroness, you and the P5+1 have already put a proposal on the table not that long ago, and you never really got a response from the Iranians. Did you get any sense from them today that they are seriously looking at it, and perhaps did they have an answer for you beyond the tone, the positive tone in essence? Is there something tangible that they bring to the table? And a follow-up on that is, can you tell that there's a difference also because Mr. Kerry is at the table? Does that change the dynamic?
Well, first of all, we put a confidence-building measure proposal on the table in order to do everything we could to try and get this moving. It remains on the table, and either the Iranian government can decide to respond directly to that, or it can put forward its own proposals. What we've asked for is that if we can have as much notice as possible of ideas before we get to Geneva, we'll be in a better position to properly respond. So we wait and see. I can't predict what will happen on that yet. In terms of Secretary Kerry, well, the E3+3 meets at ministerial level traditionally now at the General Assembly. So the dynamic is set by the governments of all of the 6 nations working together throughout the year. Certainly it was very interesting for the ministers to be able to talk at ministerial level with each other. And to that extent, of course, having the Foreign Minister of Iran come and openly talk was of itself a change in the dynamic. All ministers engaged with that, all had an opportunity to put their points of view. and the atmosphere was a very positive one.
Voice of America final.
Did you talk about at all about any guarantees that Iran will go forward with this process and that they will not go back as before? And did you discuss any consequences if they do not continue with this trend of talks?
I don't really understand the question. What do you mean by guarantees? From who? Of what?
From Foreign Minister Zarif, that he will go on through with this process, that he will abide by whatever that you agree with.
Well, the purpose of today was to set, if you like, the tone and to begin to think about the framework. I think the best guarantees of anything are what actually happens. You know, that we know, having spent, certainly from my point of view, quite a long time looking at all of the detail, that there are practical things that actually need to be done. And I think that's the best guarantee of the future, is to see things really happen on the ground, really make a difference.
Can you have a tiny one from Julian?
Yeah.
He promises it's very small.
Julian, yeah.
Really small. You talked about an ambitious timetable. Were you talking about something beyond the 3 weeks until Geneva? Is it a matter of months for solving the whole issue?
Well, when I met with President Rouhani this morning with President Van Rompuy, and in many of the conversations that the team have had with both ministers and with the President, you will have seen a number of figures being talked about. We were interested to see that they are all of an ambitious nature. The question is how far you can go in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months. And 12 months is a good time frame to think about some serious implementation on the ground. But for me, what really matters now is that we get down to the detail and actually work out what will happen, when it will happen, how we know it's happened, how we move forward, building confidence as we go to get to that point. The good news is that there are talks about the timetable. In other words, that we are hearing figures being talked around as possibilities for the kind of time frame in which things can happen. And that's of itself a very positive move.
Thank you.
Sanctions. Question from Iranian media.